FuseDesk, and I'm excited to share with you a number of cool new features today. I want to share a number of best practices with you. I want to make sure we cover all of your best practices as well as any live questions that you do have. So since this is a live call, there's kind of a few things you can do during a live call which you can't on the recording. So for those of you watching the recording, make sure you join us for our next live call. One great thing you can do is we do have a live interactive chat here. That allows you to ask your questions and look for clarification or suggest ideas sort of as we're going along, and we're able to see all those and respond to them as we go. The second cool thing we can do is as we sort of cover questions, you'll have the opportunity to raise your hand and sort of give us some feedback as we're going along. So with that, I want to share with you what we'll be covering on today's call. A number of items that I shared with you in the email. One is we're going to talk about communicating with vendors and third parties, which is pretty cool. We'll go through how to create cases via an Infusionsoft web form, either in Campaign Builder or Legacy. We'll also go through how to create cases from your Campaign Builder, which is a really powerful technique for automation. We'll talk about two exciting new features I can't wait to share with you. One is how to merge two existing cases, and secondly is how to split an existing case. Next, I want to show you something we've had in development and a number of customers using since late spring that we're now ready to share with you, which is the ability to actually use FuseDesk inside of Infusionsoft. Very, very cool. And of course, throughout this entire Mastermind call, as well as at the end, please do keep asking your questions as we go along. If you haven't had a chance already, please go ahead and type in the chat box. You'll see at the bottom it has chat, or in the questions area ideally. Tell us who you are and where you're from so we have an idea of where folks are connecting in from today. And that'll give us a good idea of who's with us and who will be participating on today's call. So with that, what I'd like to do is get a quick show of hands. If you are currently doing any joint ventures with third-party partners, go ahead and raise your hand icon there. Okay, cool. Good. Out of curiosity, for those of you raising your hands that do joint ventures, if you wouldn't mind just writing in the questions box there, what kind of promotions you typically do with some of your third-party joint venture partners. And while you're doing that, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, if you have third-party vendors that you work with that maybe fulfill products for you, ship things for you, etc., go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. Cool. So folks raising their hand now have third-party vendors and partners. Maybe it's a fulfillment house that prints and ships your products. This might be a company that does work for you, like on behalf of you for your customers. Cool. So it looks like we have a number of folks who do joint ventures, whether that be webinars or promoting other people's products to their list. And one thing we find that comes up from time to time that we get asked during our new customer trainings with new FuseDesk customers is if we have a case where we're helping out a customer, how do we go ahead and coordinate with a third-party partner? And so I'll share with you an example. Let's say you're running a promotion to your customers for a third party that's selling some widget. Now, one of your customers emails in and has a question and says, hey, when will my widget arrive? When is the box going to ship? Now, you don't know because that's outside of your control. So you need to actually talk to your partner who's fulfilling on that product. Now, if this were just plain old email, you probably forward that email to your third party and say, hey, when's this going to ship? And you sort of do this forward bounce back of emails. Well, with FuseDesk, everything is all about case management. So the idea of keeping this all on topic on one thread and fully tracked with responsibility to your team is of the utmost importance. So I want to share with you first off today a really cool technique to coordinate with your vendors and third parties in terms of getting your questions answered on behalf of your customers. So let's take a look in our FuseDesk application. All right, so now we're back in our inbox here, and let's pull up any old example here. So maybe you have somebody who emails in and says, where's my widget, right? Now, when they're emailing in, this is a question that you'll need to address with a third party. So we'll go over to our unassigned emails here, and here's the case. I'll go ahead and take that case. All right. Now, if I look into my existing cases, I'll see this one here about where's my Acme widget, right? And this might be a joint venture partner product. This might be anything, right? So what we can do, which is pretty cool, is we can actually create a template in Infusionsoft to respond back to the customer. And that might look something like, let's take a look here. That might look something like this. So you pull up a template that we've created, and I'll show you how we create this in just a moment. That is going to email to your third-party partner. It is going to have the question of exactly what needs to be taken care of and includes the message below. So what does this template look like? Well, let's take a look over at our templates here. And we have vendor question for Acme. And here's what we do. We go ahead in Infusionsoft, you can create a new template, or you can do this in FuseDesk as well, either way. And we call it something like, vendor question for Acme. You can call this, JV question for, Bob JV partner, whatever you want to call your template so you can easily find it. The from is going to stay your typical FuseDesk style setup, where you have your logged in user first name and last name. The email address is going to be your support address. Here we have support@yourbiz.com. And this is really important. We want to change this to address to be the address of your vendor. So we can have bob@acmewidget.com. We'll go ahead and put that in there. For our body, keep in mind this is an email going to your partner. So you'll say something like, "Hiya, Bob. Can you please see this question from contact first name below and let me know how you'd like us to handle? Thanks." And you can just keep it casual and short. You don't need your full-on footer, so I just have first name here. Okay? And we'll go ahead and save this. And one important thing I want to point out is Infusionsoft wants to make sure you can spam compliant. So it has to make sure that everybody you're emailing is at least unconfirmed or confirmed inside your Infusionsoft. So whoever your vendor is, you want to make sure they're in your Infusionsoft application. Now in this case, often they're not because they're partners, they're not prospects or customers, anything like that. So since they're not, you'll want to make sure we go ahead and we create a new contact record. And we simply put in the email address here. Yes, you have permission to email your partner. We'll put in Bob, Acme Widget. And this is kind of cool. Infusionsoft has different person types. You can go ahead and actually classify this contact as a vendor. What's great about this, as a quick side note, is you can now create a report for your team of contacts that have a person type of vendor and very easily have a quickly accessible shared vendor list for your entire company right inside of Infusionsoft. Go ahead and raise your hand if you think that's pretty cool. Yeah, really helpful for your team. Now, that way it's no longer, hey, who's our contact over at this company? It's all right there in Infusionsoft. All right, so we go ahead and save this. And now on this end, when we pull up our case, we'll go ahead and choose that template one more time here. We pull up vendor question for Acme. Notice the to here is being sent to bob@acmewidget.com. It starts off the conversation to Bob, fills in all the blanks of the template here, and is going to email Bob about the question from this customer. Now, what's great about this is you're essentially just forwarding along the email, but this entire thread stays attached to the case inside of Infusionsoft, inside of FuseDesk, and in turn inside of Infusionsoft. Now, what do you think happens when Bob replies back to the email and answers your question? Go ahead and type in the chat what you know happens. So Bob gets your question, Bob responds back and lets you know what's going on with that widget. Exactly, Jason got it. That all stays in the same ticket. So now when you respond back to your customer, the conversation from Bob is part of this history. So later on down the road, you pull up this case, you want to see what's happening, you know exactly what the entire history was, not just with the customer, but also with your vendor. How cool is that, huh? Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Chris, you got it as well. It responds back into the same thread. Very, very cool and powerful way to take care of your questions from your customers that need coordination with a fulfillment house, with third-party developer, with a JV partner, and more. So super. All right. Any questions on working with third parties or vendors with your FuseDesk templates? Before we move on, thanks. Kristen said this is so useful. Chris says very, very cool. Awesome. Amber had a great question here, which is, can the third party close the ticket? So a third party wouldn't be able to close the ticket out. However, they would be able to respond back to you, and that response would now go in the thread. So this way, for example, if the question came in from this customer about where's the widget that I bought from you, what's the delay, your vendor, Bob, might respond back and say, here's the tracking number, looks like it shipped and was actually left out back behind the porch. Now, your relationship with your vendor is sort of an internal private relationship, probably not customer facing. So at that point, you take the information from Bob and relay that to the customer using your own messaging and wording. So at this point, you might get back to the customer here and say, hey Jeremy, I just heard back from UPS. Looks like the track number is this track number, and it was left by your front porch. Can you check and make sure the package is there? You'd respond back, keep the case as open, and send your reply. That way, if you don't hear back from your customer after a day or so, you can follow up and say, want to make sure you got my message, was the package on the porch, or whatever it may be. Okay? So that's how you'd coordinate. And you can, of course, respond back to a vendor, but more likely than not, you're just getting an answer to your question and moving on from there. So, good. All right. So any other questions on working with vendors or third parties before I move on? All right, so Jason had a question. So the vendor's contact record will have no history of this, right? Actually, not necessarily. Infusionsoft does something very cool, which is that anytime you're communicating with an email address attached to a contact record in Infusionsoft, it'll go ahead and track that case back there. So now when we save this message and send it out via Infusionsoft, we pass along the contact ID of your customer. So this email will be saved in the contact record in Infusionsoft, but since we're emailing this to a contact that's in your Infusionsoft account, that's not that customer, Infusionsoft smartly links this up, so you'll actually see all of your vendor correspondences on the contact record in Infusionsoft. Very, very powerful. Now you can pull up a vendor and say, let me see all the cases we've had with that vendor as well. So good. Great questions, guys, and thank you for the feedback. Before we move on, just a few quick shout-outs here to folks who are joining us. Jeremy, Ali, and Phil, welcome to the call from España. Hope you guys are enjoying the beautiful weather there on the coast. We've got Chris coming in from Arizona. We have Chris as well from Florida. Kristen from San Diego, welcome to the call. Jeff from northwestern Wisconsin. I hope it's not getting too cold too early now already. And plenty of other folks who are still connecting in. So thank you again for joining us. So awesome, guys. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic I want to share with you, which is actually creating cases from web forms, and then we'll get into creating cases from Campaign Builder. Now, right now, on previous calls, we've shared how to open a case using our FuseDesk widget for WordPress. So if you have a membership site or a knowledge base or a customer portal, as it were, your customers can easily create new cases right from that WordPress site. The most common way of creating cases, of course, is allowing your customers to email you and have those come into FuseDesk. And of course, your reps can manually create cases using new case. But what if you want to automate the creation of a case via a web form, or what if you want to do that from Campaign Builder? Well, let's go ahead and cover how to do each of those. What I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up an Infusionsoft application here. And we'll open this up in a Firefox browser. Here we are logged in within Firefox here, and we're going to go over to Campaign Builder. Now, I'm curious by a quick show of hands, if you still use legacy web forms, any of your automation, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. Less and less as the days go on, but we still have Cassie and Amber and Ben still using legacy. I still use it for some campaigns, but more and more I like to move anything possible over to Campaign Builder. And the cool thing is we can actually do pretty decent web forms in Campaign Builder. So who's got a good idea of what we can use to, what would be a good example of a web form to open a case? If you have a cool idea, we'll go ahead and build it out right here via a web form. Any neat idea about where we'd use a web form to create a case? Okay, cool. Amber has an idea. Someone wants to upgrade to a rush order. I like that. Jeremy here has something that's broken on a website, generate a ticket. Both great ideas. All right. We'll call this FuseDesk ticket creation. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a web form here. And what we'll do is I'll actually show you how we do both of these here in a moment. So we'll have a sequence over here, and we'll get to the sequence later on. Okay? So we'll come back to that sequence. So we'll call this upgrade. Something broken on the website. I like that idea because that'll give us a few more options here. So we'll go. We'll call this website fix request. Okay. And we'll go in, we'll design our form. All right, we have our first name and our email. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and ask for a phone number as well. Never hurts to have that. So we'll drop phone number in. We'll call it best phone number. And maybe we'll have a field here for a new custom field. So create a custom field. We'll call this website issue. We'll call this latest website issue. And we'll make this a nice text area. Good. And we'll pull in another field here for website. Now, as you can tell, what we're doing here is we're just adding the field for whatever we might want on our custom form. You, of course, can customize this to whatever you want. Okay? We'll go with this as our example. Jeremy, how's that looking for something broken on a website? Let's generate a ticket. Look pretty good? Cool. All right. Now, thank you page we can leave, default. Hopefully we'll get nice oranges and apples combined. We do, and you can customize this. We don't need to do that here. Now, this is the important part. Right now, you're probably used to having a form generate some sort of notification which comes into FuseDesk and ends up being this like no reply notification email that doesn't process too well. So what we're going to do is we're actually not going to send a notification, but we are going to send ourselves an email. Okay? And this works for both legacy as well as within Campaign Builder. So let's go ahead and change this from draft. And we're going to go ahead and grab the hosted URL here. Again, what you do with your web forms is up to you. You can embed this. You can use the JavaScript version. You can copy and paste the HTML code somewhere. Just for the sake of example here, we're going to go ahead and use this URL. All right, so what's going to happen here is a customer fills out this field. You can embed this form, put this wherever you like. Now, the real magic here comes from what we're going to do in terms of our sequence here. So let's go edit this. We're going to connect up our website fix request into a campaign because what we really want to do is send out an email. Now, again, if you're using legacy, we'll do the exact same process, but under actions, you'll have send email template, and you'll choose a template from there. So, case website fix to FuseDesk. So we'll go ahead and open that template up. And here's the magic. Instead of sending this to the customer contact, which is the default, we're going to go with other. Now, for other, what we'll do is we'll send this into whatever your support address is. In this case, we'll just use our sandbox application here. Normally, this would be support@yourbiz.com or whatever that address is. HTML we don't actually care about. It's the plain text that we really want to work with. So we go ahead and put in something like this. Hi, please help me with a website issue on. Now we'll drop in our merge fields. And we'll go to contact fields additional. And we're just going to pull out whatever fields are on the form. Specifically, and we'll put in our custom field we just added. Thanks. And we'll sign this from your customer. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just taking, again, all the form fields, and we go ahead and we just add those in here, because this email is going to come into FuseDesk with everything we fill out here. So we'll call this we'll say website issue with that website name. And then if we want to get a little more specific, we can do something like, current date, if that would be helpful to you. So if someone fills out this form, it's going to go to our FuseDesk app. It's going to say, hi, please help me with a website issue on www.something.com. Specifically, we notice that something is broken, etc. Thanks, signed, customer's first name, email, phone. All right? We'll have all this information in FuseDesk anyways. Contains default system content. Ah, ha, ha, ha. So if only we could disable HTML, which thankfully in Legacy we can. So we'll go ahead and just strip some of this out. If we wanted to get fancy, go ahead and just take this exact same thing. And we could there we go. Super. One more thing to fix I need to mention here. We're sending it to us, but we want it to actually come from the contact. So here again, we'll go to our contact fields. And we'll drop in first name, last name, and contact email address. So just to review, we have the from is other. It's coming from the contact first name, last name, email. It's going to other, which is going to your support address. The subject is something that would differentiate it amongst other things. And the plain text is the important part here, and we outline what those custom fields are. So that covers everything. Let's go back here. We'll turn this onto ready. We'll go back to our campaign, and we shall publish. One last thing I just need to make sure of, your support address is probably already in your Infusionsoft. But if not, you want to go ahead and just search for that there. And haha, it's not. You want to make sure that is, again, added and opted in, just like the vendors we covered earlier. All right, ready to try out the form? Let's go check this out. So we hop over to our form, and we, well, we'll go with me. All right, so Jeremy, let's go. You said something is broken on a website, generate a ticket. Went to load the home page, and the image slider didn't come up. Looks like a broken image. Can y'all fix this ASAP? Sound pretty typical, huh? All right, so we have that. This all looks good. So we'll go ahead and submit this. Thanks for filling out our form. That's good. We'll let Infusionsoft do its magic, where what it's doing right now is taking in that contact form request. We'll kick off the automation to send an email on into us inside of FuseDesk, thereby creating a case. And if we actually go over here and we pull up our contacts here, we'll just go right back to So this goes back to the question someone asked earlier about vendors. You'll see here, this is not the customer, but this is an address we emailed. In the recent email history, we actually have right here that website issue with email to, from, etc. So we actually want to go and look up the customer here. There he is. And you'll see website issue with, and this actually has the details. But more importantly is if we go over to your FuseDesk app, you'll see new email came in here. And it's from Jeremy. It says website issue with somewhere.com. Hi, please help me with website issue on somewhere.com. Specifically, went to load the home page and the image slider didn't come up. Looks like a broken image. Can you all fix this ASAP? And so that is how we're able to take a web form inquiry and turn it into an inbound email into FuseDesk, saving your customer from opening up an email and sending it in directly. The exact same thing works with Legacy. Now, I know you can't applaud, but if you do want to click a hand raise, that would be awesome if you like that, if you plan to be able to use that in your application. All right, super. Cool. All right, now by a quick show of hands, who wants to know how to do this with Campaign Builder and our API, skipping the whole email process entirely? Yeah, okay, this is really cool because we're going to do the exact same thing but bypass the whole sort of email process, and we're going to use our own API to actually jump in and create this case directly in Campaign Builder. And to give you an idea of what this looks like, let's jump back over to Campaign Builder. We're going to pull this up, and we're going to disconnect this email piece because we don't actually need to do that anymore. So now we'll grab a sequence, drop this in here. We can go ahead and disconnect this. We don't need that. We'll plumb this into, we'll call this FuseDesk ticket via email. We'll call this FuseDesk ticket via HTTP post. All right, so since we're going to be using the FuseDesk API, we'll need to make sure you get your FuseDesk API key first. All right, so let's log into your FuseDesk app. You'll click on your preferences on your left-hand side, and you'll go over to API keys. Now, if you don't have any API keys, you'll have an opportunity to create one, but let's just go ahead and add a new one ourselves. So we'll call this Campaign Builder. Why not? Specifically, we want to be able to create cases, and we'll add the rest of those case permissions as well. So that API key was created. We can go ahead and copy this to our clipboard because we're going to need this here in just a moment. Now, let's hop back over to Campaign Builder. And we're going to send an HTTP post. Now, we're sort of geeking out here a little bit, so this recording might help as we come back to this in the future. What we're going to do is send an HTTP post. This tells Infusionsoft to send a bunch of parameters to some other URL to work some magic for us. In this case, we're going to send it over to your application. So for the post URL, you want to use HTTPS, that makes it secure there, and put in your application name, .fusedesk.com /API for our API, v1 for version 1 of our API, and cases to work specifically with our cases. Okay? So that again is HTTPS for the secure part, :/ your application name. In this case, AL104 is our sandbox. .fusedesk.com /API /v1 /cases. All right. Now the next thing we need to put in here is our API key. So we put in API key, all lowercase. We paste in that API key we just created inside of FuseDesk. Next, we're going to go ahead and say we're going to link this directly to the contact ID. So we'll pull up our merge fields here, and we'll go to contact fields additional, and we'll put in their ID. This allows the case to automatically be connected right to that contact. Next thing is we're going to put in open by. This is just text to delineate who this person is. So we'll go over to contact fields most common and do first name space last name. Next thing is we're going to want to know our department ID and our rep ID. And I'll show you how to get those here in just a moment. So once we have both of those, let's hop back over to your FuseDesk application. And the rep ID and department ID is not something you ever need on a day-to-day basis. It's just stuff you use for your API. Now, via our API, you can actually pull down lists of your reps and lists of your departments and all. That's beyond the scope of what we need to do today. So I'll show you the quick, cheat, easy way to find out the IDs that you need. Let's say we want to assign a case to Kelly. So we'll click on Kelly's name from the sidebar here. And that'll give us an ID of 2 right here in the URL. So any rep you click on will get their ID number right up top in the address bar. So we'll go ahead and take Kelly here, and we'll put that in for her for our rep ID. Now for the department, we have to determine what department we want to assign this case to. In this case, maybe we want to assign this over to billing. So we do the same thing. We click on billing, and we find out our department ID here in this application is 272. And we'll put in for department ID 272. Again, these numbers will vary in whatever department and rep you want. Simply click on the department and rep from your sidebar and grab those IDs right from the URL bar up top. Okay. Any questions as we're going along? We're moving a little fast on some pretty deep geekery. So I'm happy to expound on this as we go. I just want to make sure this is all clear. All right. We have just 2 more fields we're going to go ahead and add here. One is a summary and one is the details. So we put in summary and details. Now, if a customer emailed you, summary would be the subject line and details would be the body of the email. If you clicked on new case inside of FuseDesk, summary would be the case summary and details will be whatever you typed in your note. So in this case, we'll go ahead and once again call this website issue on, and we'll add in our merge field on website. And for details, we can simply put in the details that were submitted. We'll go to custom, and we'll go to latest website issue. All right, so just to review here, we have a post URL up top here, customized to your application. We have our API key, which you get from within your own application. We have a contact ID, which is the ID merge field. Open by, which I like to use contact first name, last name. Department ID, which is the ID number we grabbed from your application. Rep ID, which we also grabbed from your application. Summary, which is the sort of the title of the case, which we use some merge fields here, and details merge field as well. Now again, if you have lots of different fields on your form or other information you want, go ahead and fill this out however you like. These are all just free-form open text boxes to type in whatever you need. Okay? So we'll go ahead and mark this as ready. We can go ahead and send a test if we'd like to. Probably won't work without that without those details, but never hurts to go ahead and try. All right. We'll go ahead and mark the sequence as ready as well. And we'll go ahead and publish all of our changes. So any questions along here? Kristen said, glad this is recorded. You mean you're not taking copious notes and remembering every one of these little details? Not a problem. That is exactly why we record these. Now, one neat thing I want to point out is what we've just done here is essentially duplicated the same functionality we have in creating a ticket via email, but performing the same actions via an HTTP post. I'll go over some really neat advanced use cases here in a moment, but let's just show exactly how this is working. So we'll go back over to our form here, and we'll go ahead and submit this in again. Now we submit this, get to the same thank you page. This post, it has website issue on somewhere.com, and it has the notes. Went to the home page, image letter didn't come up, looks like a broken image. Can you all fix this ASAP? Now what's cool about this is without creating a new email template and without going through any advanced email rules inside of FuseDesk, we're able to create a case directly in FuseDesk from Infusionsoft. So I just gave the example here of, for example, having a simple support request. But where else could this be used? Well, what if you have tasks that you want to create cases for? For example, if there's a billing decline, you could create a task in Infusionsoft, or you could create a case in FuseDesk about that billing decline, and that way you have emails and also all your phone calls about that, but they're all threaded and together on the exact same case. So this way, you could create a case, for example, called billing decline for subscription renewal, and your details here could be, customer's card decline. Please call this phone number, and the case is assigned to somebody on your billing team. Now, all of their phone calls that they have regarding that collection can go right in here. Their follow-up emails can all go here as they communicate with the customer. You might have a task, for example, a website fix needs to take place. You might have a campaign that has some automation, but one of the tasks as we go through that sequence is to actually go ahead and create a case. So we come back in here. We have FuseDesk ticket creation. We have our sequence here. And as we go into this, we can have all sorts of other things here. For example, an email that goes out first, and immediately afterwards, we send the HTTP post into FuseDesk. Now, a question came up about what's the benefit of using the HTTP post versus an email submission. The email submission works fine, and it's how we always did things before Campaign Builder. It allows you a bit of flexibility. The nice thing about using Campaign Builder is this is a great way to directly inside of your Infusionsoft application as part of a campaign to have the post going in. So you can automate, for example, creation of tasks, assign things to people on the team. You can have this bypassing an email rule and go directly to a specific rep in a specific department. So that's one use case. Amber asked the question of when would this form be presented to the client? It's however or wherever you want. So again, email and direct to your reps in our WordPress plugin are all great ways to create cases. However, sometimes you just have a use case where you want to have a form. Maybe it's a service request form where you want to go a little more deep and in depth. In Jeremy's case here, as a website request. So maybe a customer emails in and says, "Hey, this isn't working." Your rep could respond back and say, "Well, tell us more," or they could say, "Please complete this detailed form that has all sorts of other things." We also had Amber had the idea of upgrade to a rush order. There's a great use case where somebody wants to upgrade. You send them a link to a form and they fill out the details, or they submit an order. Now imagine, for example, you put automation in place. For example, customer purchases, right? So they purchase a product online, and that kicks off a sequence here to automatically open up a case. Maybe that case is a welcome call. So you have a task for one of your coaches to call a student. Maybe that task is for one of your support reps to reach out and welcome the customer aboard and find out if they have any questions. These are all things you can automate through case creation directly in FuseDesk. Cool. Let me just take a look at the questions that are coming in here. Yes, so another question came in regarding, does FuseDesk use the same mail service as Infusionsoft? We do. This is why we have those other opt-in concerns. We want to make sure that you opt in the addresses you're mailing. So any emails that are going from FuseDesk through Infusionsoft are able to get there because you flagged that person as deliverable in Infusionsoft. So yes, our email does go through Infusionsoft. This allows us to merge in automation links, opt-out links, custom merge fields, and so much more, and attach everything to the right records. Cool. One last comment here. Amber just expanded upon that. Let's say a customer purchases, then responds to the thank you email, upsell to rush, and she wants somebody on the team to know about the rush and rush the order. Yeah, perfect. So there are a few ways to do that. One is have an action set. So when a customer responds to the welcome email, that email will actually come into Infusionsoft. So you would see the customer's email here saying, "Yes, please rush my order." Your rep could then go ahead and run an action set to rush the order. So that's how we go ahead and handle that. So good. So we just went through how to create cases from Webforms as well as how to create cases from Campaign Builder. Now in a moment here, we'll move forward and jump into how to merge cases and split cases in your FuseDesk application. But before I do that, I want to find out, do we have any more questions on creating cases from Webforms or using Campaign Builder to create cases in Infusionsoft? So good, and again, any questions we miss, we'll make sure we come back to later. So by a quick show of hands, who's ready to see how to merge cases and split cases from within your FuseDesk application? Yeah, all right. Good, we've had a lot of folks who've been asking us for this functionality. Now I want to point out we've always had the ability to track cases for you, so you don't have to merge them after the fact. For example, if a customer replies to any email on a thread, that'll automatically reattach to that case inside of FuseDesk and Infusionsoft without you needing to do anything more. Secondly, if a customer responds to your email but just doesn't quote anything, just has new text, that'll also intelligently reattach more. Customer email and you see a completely new email, and you want to attach that new email on a new topic, that's also possible. Right from unassigned cases, you have for years been able to click the drop-down above a customer contact's name here and attach that new email that came in to an existing case right from this drop-down list. But what you've not been able to do until today is merge two existing cases together. So what's a use case for this? Let's say a customer emails in. Now we had our example here before about the Acme widget. So Jeremy emailed in and said, "Where's my Acme widget?" Now if we respond back to this customer and say, "Thank you for your email, I'll find out and get right back to you." That's fine. That email automatically attaches back on that thread, no problem. In fact, when the customer responds to that, that again will come back in and automatically reattach. But what if the customer then sends another email? It goes into unassigned. So they send an email in. and that goes back into that email comes into unassigned. If, let's say, the rep handling that case didn't know to merge these cases, so they're presented here with a customer emailed and said, "Great news, my widget just arrived. Thanks for your help." Right? This is off-thread, completely new email that came in. If for whatever reason this did not get taken care of by the reps handling unassigned, but instead it was taken as a secondary case, you may want to be able to merge those. So let's go back over to my inbox, and here I have my order. So what we can do is we'll go over to Merge Cases, and what you'll see on this new Merge Cases tab while viewing this case is a list of your recently viewed cases. So what do we do with that? Well, there's a few cool things we can do. One is this allows you at a glance to look at what your recently viewed cases were and one-click access those cases. Secondly, this gives you a list of cases you can easily merge to. So here, if you're wondering, is this that case, you simply click. This opens up that other case from your recently viewed case. And here it is, the question about, where's the widget that I bought from you? What's the delay? And we go to Merge Cases, and we order this in the order that you've recently viewed. So your most recently viewed case is right up top here. So if you just jump between your two cases, you simply select that top case and click on Merge Cases. And what we do is we bring you to this newly merged case that has that entire history. Here is the email coming in from the customer, response back to the customer, and look at this. Here's that new email that came in on a completely separate case, now merged in. And you have your history here if you have the case logs turned on, so you see that the two cases were merged together, all in one spot. Is that cool or what? You're able to take two separate cases and actually merge them together after the fact. So now let's say you're corresponding with this customer, and you want to be able to split the case. Now, when might you split a case? I'm curious. Go ahead and just use the chat there and let me know when you might want to split a case apart into two different cases. What's a good use case for splitting a case to two separate cases? All right. So good. So Kristen just responded back. If one issue has been resolved, you might want to go ahead and split a case. Ben commented when two different customer cases are accidentally merged. Yep, you could split a case there. Chris has a great point. If there are two reps that need to handle different aspects of a case, that might be an opportunity to split a case. Jeff brought up one of the most common ones, which is a customer brings up a new issue. So here's what often happens. You're corresponding with your customers, taking care of whatever their issue is, and then out of left field, they email in with a completely different question, off topic entirely, and you want to be able to address that. And sometimes a customer responds to a case from like 3 months ago, which reopens that old case, but really this is an entirely new issue. So let's go ahead and work through that use case here. So let's see. We email back to a customer about the widget. We then respond back here and say, oh, I was wondering, what's my login? We have the option here to new topic, split the case. Now, this is live in most of your apps today, and if not, just go ahead and just double refresh your case view, and you'll see this option for new topic, split the case, above new inquiries from the customer. Now, you can't split a case going far back. We only allow you to do this as far back as new emails back from your customer. So you'll see this new option here, which says new topic, split the case, and you simply go ahead, mouse over that, give it a click, and you confirm that you want to split the case from whatever timestamp that is, today 11:31 a.m. and forward. So what that means is, let's say the customer responded back and then responded back again, and there's a few emails here. Maybe they're in a different time zone. So when your team gets in, they've got a few emails off topic from the customer. You simply go ahead and confirm you want to split from that time forward. And what we do is we create an entirely new case. We take that email and we attach that to that case, and we bring you over to the case. So we show you that exact history. And here you have a completely new case. So when we go look at Jeremy's other cases, you'll see both of these now. So you'll see the two different Acme widget cases. One of these is the case we're looking at here, which is about logging in. And the other case, which is referenced right here, is the original thread, which you'll see now no longer has that new email inquiry that came from the customer. And so that is how you can easily split a case out from a new customer inquiry when they change the topic, as well as how you can merge the case. So by a quick show of hands, who's excited about merging and splitting cases? I'd raise my hand if I could, but it won't let me. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So let me see. Questions that came in regarding splitting cases. Cool. Chris is saying great stuff. Thank you. Any chance of having the split ability go back further than the most recent? So we go back as far back as all customer-generated replies. So at the point your team has been corresponding with the customer, that's all attached to the same case. But if the customer responds back 4 times, you'll be able to go back all 4 of those replies back to split from there. So good, good. Great hand raises. Thank you, guys. Glad everyone's pumped about that. And so we've just gone through splitting and merging cases. And the last thing I want to share with you on today's call before we get into any of your open-ended questions to cover is using FuseDesk in Infusionsoft. Now, one of the great things about FuseDesk is for your team, it gives them really a 2-screen interface to work with FuseDesk. Look at your queue and work on a case without having to get into deep training on Infusionsoft. However, some members of your team work throughout most of the day within Infusionsoft and want to basically at a glance see what's happening on the FuseDesk side of things. Well, I'm proud to share with you, if you're using Chrome or Firefox, we have an add-on that you can use to allow you to integrate both FuseDesk and Infusionsoft together in the Infusionsoft window. So what does that look like? Well, let's take a look here at exactly what that use case is. Well, if we look at cases, let's pull up a recent customer here, and we'll probably have to log back in. Always fun. Thank you. So we pulled up my contact record here. We click on cases, and you'll see your typical loading screen that you're used to, and then a list of all of your FuseDesk cases right here inside of Infusionsoft. You also have the ability to click on New Case, and via an Infusionsoft style pop-up, actually create a new case within your FuseDesk application. And of course, also your settings here, where you can configure your API key as well as your default department. So how do you get the plugin and add that into your Infusionsoft application? Well, pretty easily. What we do is you go to the Chrome Web Store, and you can search for FuseDesk, and you'll find us there. I will also send a link over on our chat. FuseDesk for Chrome. So there's the Chrome plugin. As well as on the Firefox side, you can search the same plugin marketplace there. So FuseDesk for Firefox. There. So you simply go to either one of those pages, depending on what browser you're in, and that'll allow you to add this add-on directly into your web browser. So when you're in your Infusionsoft application, you'll have a Cases tab. Now, your first time through, you'll see Cases here under, right next to Tasks. You'll click on Cases, and it'll pop up and ask you to configure and add your API key, which you probably won't have. So all you do is, while this is blank, you simply click on Get API Key. And what we do is we actually route you directly into your FuseDesk application with a pop-up box here saying the Infusionsoft browser plugin would like to add an API key. We pre-fill out with the permissions we need. So all you need to do is click on Add API Key for Infusionsoft browser plugin. Or if you already have an existing one, simply grab one of your API keys here, and you're in good shape to go. Okay? So we click on Add API Key for Infusionsoft browser plugin. It automatically adds it, gives you one click to link back over to your Infusionsoft application, and it pre-fills this in for you in the pop-up. You simply click on Save, and you're off and running with FuseDesk directly in your Infusionsoft application. Super, super, super cool, and very handy for your team that primarily uses Infusionsoft and occasionally wants to look at the cases for contact inside of Infusionsoft. So, sweet. Any questions on the plugins for FuseDesk and Infusionsoft, either for Chrome or Firefox, or feedback in general on that? All right, good. Great stuff, thank you. Cool. So with that being said, the major items that we're looking to cover on our call today, specifically communicating with vendors and third parties, creating cases with Webforms, and creating cases with the Campaign Builder. We went through all those examples of sort of best practices there. We shared the new functionality of how to merge existing cases, as well as the functionality on how to split an existing case. And I just showed you something that our development team has been working hard on that I'm really proud of, which is using FuseDesk inside of your Infusionsoft application right in browser. So beyond that, I'd like to open it up to any other questions you have in terms of best practices, in terms of specific use cases you have, or really anything else. This is a great time to sort of share your question you think everyone else would benefit from that we can go through and cover. So please do use the question box there to ask any questions you have so we can get into any live questions that you might have. So good. All right, so quick question on the plugin. Ben was asking, you installed the plugin but doesn't have the option for departments in the drop-down on settings. After you add your API key, go ahead and click on Test API Key. So you just click over on Settings here. You can click on Check. That'll check the API key, and when it comes back and looks good, that'll enable this drop-down menu of department options for you. You can also just click Save, come back, and that should be fine for your departments as well. Good. Kirsten had a question. Is there a place to find comments in the feedback loop star rating system? Great question. So right now, if you want to look at your feedback ratings that have come back in, if we go over to your reports inside of FuseDesk, and we click on our feedback report, feedback ratings, you'll be able to see a trend, and again, there's not much data here, this is a sandbox application, of case ratings over time. Now, this will give you a sort of overview of how your feedback is. However, if you want to get specifics on individual cases and what feedbacks come in, you'd actually need to go into the individual case. So I don't have a good example handy for that, but in general, right here where it has feedback, it would go ahead and have the star rating as well as any comments that customers left. In terms of getting an aggregate report of all feedback left, that's a report we have in development that's not available yet. That'll allow you to see that listing of customer feedback that came in. So cool. Amber had a question about when are we getting some telephone support. Great question in terms of integrating your telephony with FuseDesk. A few cool things. One is for your reps who are taking inbound phone calls, which is very common, a few things you can do. What I like to do is when a phone call is coming in, just grab the caller ID and type that caller ID in my search box on the left here. And what that'll do is that'll pull up all contacts with that phone number. And so right here, while looking at these contacts, I can click in and view that customer's existing cases, or with one click, go ahead and actually create a new case for that customer. So while I'm answering the phone, I can go ahead and click that and create a new case. Secondarily, what's pretty helpful is once you've pulled that customer contact record up, I'm sorry, if you don't have your caller ID, the other thing that's helpful is just doing a partial name search. So we can go ahead and do something like, Bob. And you can pull up, all your different Bobs in your application. So that's the current integration that we do have that allows you to create cases from a phone call. In terms of integrating live chat, if you've used OLARC before for live chat, or if you use LivePerson or any of those sort of chat services out there, a lot of them have the option to actually email the transcript of that chat. So what a lot of our customers do is they simply turn on the address to mail those transcripts to be the support address. So that way, when that transcript comes in, a case is created and we can go from there. We've looked at some integrations to third-party systems to allow the direct creation of that. That is an option, but what we prefer to do, and that's sort of down the road beyond the voice calls we just showed, is the ability to actually have sort of native live chat built in. So it's not on the short-term roadmap here, but it's something we're aware of. So live chat-wise, we'd love to see that as well. So, okay, good. Other questions here? Good. I think that's covered most of the questions that have come in regarding the plugin, regarding some sort of advanced down-the-road functionality. I do want to share for those of you who do like to geek out behind the scenes. We do have our API has been drastically updated. We have a whole lot of new functionality in the back end there. The documents will be updated soon to reflect that. And then what we'll be doing beyond that is starting to build out sort of our new front end user experience built on top of that API. So do look forward to in the coming months, sort of a new look and feel that we'll be working on. If you are interested in sort of being a beta tester with us and checking out some new features and functionality that are not publicly available, just send an email over to support and say that you're interested in being a beta tester with us, and we'll get you in the loop on that. So as new functionality comes out, you can be one of the first to check it out. So good. We have folks saying here in the chat that they'd like to be a beta tester. We'd love to have you there. Just send a quick note to support@FuseDesk.com to let us know. Good. So with that, we've covered all the questions. We've covered everything else that we said we would cover today on the call. I appreciate you joining us for our Mastermind call, where we share sort of best practices, new features, and at times like this, sort of a behind-the-scenes sneak peek. So thanks for joining us and for your live questions and participation today, and from connecting all around the globe. This is Jeremy Shapiro with FuseDesk, and we're looking forward to seeing you on our next call. Thanks so much.